At 51, Barbara Cook is loving life. She's active in her children's school and her church, enjoys spending time with her family and her dog. But Barbara is worried.
I have two sisters, and both of them have been diagnosed with breast cancer. 10 years ago, my younger sister, she was 35 and was diagnosed, and she died at 36.
Barbara had the BRCA or BRCA test, which looks for a specific gene associated with breast cancer. But only 5 to 10% of women who get the disease have that gene.
My older sister and I have had the BRCA test. We both came back negative, but she still got breast cancer.
Beth Stevenson also worried about breast cancer. A practicing gynecologist, she knows the disease strikes 1 of every 8 women in this country and claims 39,000 lives each year. She had heard about a new one-time test, BREVAGen, that helps predict cases of sporadic hormone-dependent breast cancer, the most common and treatable kind. Doctors swab the patient's cheeks for cells that are sent to a lab to look for genetic markers called single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs.
This was science that came out of the Human Genome Project, and several different scientists then, when that project was completed, went back to their own labs and were able to associate certain SNPs with certain diseases. Specifically, the BREVAGen test uses 7 SNPs that are highly predictive of breast cancer.
The BREVAGen test also considers a patient's family and personal history and her lifetime exposure to estrogen, whether her first period came early, at what age her first child was born, whether she's had breast biopsies or relatives who got breast cancer. Beth Stevenson was intrigued.
I decided to have the test done because I do have some risk factors for developing breast cancer. I was older when I had my first child. My mother developed breast cancer and a great aunt on my father's side. And so I was concerned about it. And it seemed like a solid test that would really help me to determine if I need to do anything more than just my yearly screening exams.
3 weeks later, she had an answer. An assessment of risk for the next 5 years and for her lifetime.
It was good news. My baseline risk of developing breast cancer, my lifetime risk was 20%. And after I got the results back, it went down to 13.
The lab also analyzed samples from Barbara Cook. BREVAGen showed she was at high risk for breast cancer, so Cook and her doctor devised a personalized plan to try and prevent it.
Even a moderate weight loss of 5 to 10% has been shown to decrease the risk of cancer. Other things like increasing antioxidants through dietary changes, exercise, and alcohol cessation or moderation.
Survival rates are better than 95% if breast cancer is detected early. So high-risk patients like Cook might get 2 screenings a year, a mammogram and an MRI.
I did share with my daughter the BREVAGen results, and she has encouraged me to do everything I can to find out more about my options and what I can do for early detection in case it does happen to me.
The diagnosis is so important in this particular cancer because it's so curable when it's found in that early disease state. And so I really try to emphasize to my patients that if we put this plan in motion and we really follow you and increase your surveillance and help you through this process, we can make huge differences in the amount of breast cancer that'll be diagnosed and the amount of breast cancer that can be diagnosed and cured.
Over 85% of women who get breast cancer have little or no family history. So doctors recommend the BREVAGen test to any woman over the age of 35 when risk begins to rise.
Weight gain of about 24 pounds from the last child probably accounts for about 20% of all breast cancers. After the age of 50, every pound that a woman puts on and keeps on, this is a big study that went on for 25 years, equals 1 percentage point more breast cancers. So 10 pounds equals 10% more breast cancers. For women at age 50 who lose weight, they get twice the benefit. So if they lose a pound, there are 2% fewer breast cancers, and the women that lost 10 pounds and kept it off until they were 75 actually were in a group of women that had 20% fewer breast cancers. One of the advantages that we haven't mentioned in the BREVAGen test is the idea that it would be given to everyone. And if that were to happen, since 70% of breast cancers at least occur to women that have no risk factors that we understand today, clearly we would have a tremendous impact on the number of women achieving earlier diagnosis and ultimately being saved from breast cancer.
Because they're very busy, they're taking care of the family, their children, their husband, everyone but themselves. So when they have this type of information, they're more prone and likely to go ahead and take care of their breast health by getting that mammogram each year. We're looking at what age the woman first had her menstrual period, what age she went through menopause, and what age did she have her first child, because all those things will affect how much estrogen exposure she had over time. In addition, she may have had hormonal treatment for infertility, she may have been on birth control pills, but specifically we're looking at estrogen exposure over time because we know estrogen is related to breast cancer risk. We know breast density plays a huge role in the ability to detect breast cancers, and mammography is not very sensitive in the dense breast tissue. In fact, now when mammograms are reported, they're actually reporting the density of the breast. And I found doing the BREVAGen test, there are certain DNA markers they're looking at that has a role in breast density, and so that can elevate one's risk if those markers are found.
The whole idea with screening for breast cancer is that if a woman does develop breast cancer, hopefully we catch it at an early age. If women have an early diagnosis, they have a high survival rate. If a woman has a test come back that shows that she's at increased risk for developing breast cancer, one thing she can do is call her insurance company to see if they'll cover annual MRIs. Currently, most insurances do not cover MRIs on women without there being a specific reason, and she can submit the results from this test to appeal to them to cover a yearly MRI. The second thing is that she can meet with an oncologist who specializes in breast cancer and talk with them about perhaps starting on a medication like tamoxifen to decrease the risk of developing breast cancer. This is a test that we can do that will really spell out her risk for her so that she can understand the numbers and why it's so important to get the yearly screening test done.